Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're a focused learner trying to make sense of the shifting ground beneath our modern economy, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're unpacking a massive shift, the proletarianization of white-collar work under generative AI systems. We're going to look way past the standard, overly optimistic corporate press releases to examine how the very nature of white-collar work is being fundamentally rewired by AI.
And we're going to start with this provocative warning from our sources. You were promised that AI would automate the drudgery, but instead, it's automating you. The prestige of white-collar work is evaporating as high-level expertise is stripped down into standardized data inputs. What we are witnessing is the birth of the digital assembly line, where your creative agency is quietly being replaced by algorithmic management.
Okay, let's really dive into this. Are we witnessing the birth of the digital assembly line? Because we're moving into an era where highly trained specialists are finding their complex, high-level decision-making broken down into standard microtasks, managed by the very software they log into every day. To understand exactly how this paradigm shift is happening, we need to look at the structural mechanics behind it.
Here's our roadmap for the explainer today. 1. Harvesting knowledge capital. 2. The digital assembly line. 3. Alienation and proletarianization. 4. The end of artisans. And finally, 5. The rise of knowledge guilds. Let's get into it.
Let's kick things off by contrasting two very different realities. Remember the 2024 hype cycle? We were sold the AI co-pilot. That was the optimistic expectation that AI is just a helpful assistant, right? It's there to liberate you from making spreadsheets so you can focus on high-level strategy. But the sobering 2026 reality that's emerging from the data is the AI manager. Instead of just assisting, these systems are actively extracting, codifying, and ultimately commodifying human expertise. They're displacing the exact same experts who train them.
Section 1. Harvesting knowledge capital. How your expertise becomes data.
According to researchers at Harvard Business School, the relationship between AI and labor isn't actually a partnership. It is fundamentally extractive. To really grasp this, we have to define a crucial term: knowledge capital. This is the process where your tacit knowledge, all that hard-earned, specific expertise in your head, is codified into an asset that your employer outright owns. It's scalable, it's transferable, and it's theirs. Think about it. Every single day, your daily tasks, your customer chat transcripts, their emails, your beautifully formatted slide decks, they're all captured. Your daily labor itself generates the knowledge data used to train the very systems meant to automate you. A fascinating related concept from researchers publishing in preprints is artifact capital. This refers to the durable, queryable traces of your work. We're talking code comments, Jira tickets, meeting summaries, the digital paper trail. Now, on one hand, this is totally great for flexibility because it lowers the coordination costs of distance working. You don't need to be in the office if your work is perfectly documented. But the flip side, it makes your human workflows perfectly legible to algorithms, which makes your specific role a whole lot easier to replicate.
And this dynamic is perfectly illustrated by a massive study from Brynjolfsson, Lee, and Raymond on customer support agents. When they gave these workers access to generative AI, novice workers saw a massive 34% boost in productivity. But for top performers, the boost was literally 0%. So what happened? The tacit skills of the absolute best workers were extracted through their data to boost the performance of the novices. The experts were effectively training their cheaper replacements, completely for free, without receiving any compensation for that massive transfer of expertise.
Section 2. The digital assembly line. Taylorism for the knowledge worker.
This naturally shifts our focus from the mere extraction of data to how it reshapes day-to-day management. In what's essentially digital Taylorism, we can map this process out in 4 clear steps. First, human action occurs. You just do your job. Second, ambient surveillance captures this. And in modern knowledge work, this isn't a guy with a clipboard and a stopwatch. It's keystroke logging, email scraping, and Slack monitoring. Third, this ambient capture becomes the training data for the AI. And finally, step 4, the AI becomes the algorithmic manager. It starts dictating your pacing, auto-generating your replies, and turning specialized cognitive work into highly controlled, repetitive microtasks.
Section 3. Alienation and Proletarianization. A Marxian lens on AI.
This shift brilliantly illustrates why researchers are increasingly turning to historical economic frameworks to make sense of today. For instance, an analysis published in the International Journal of Creative Research Thoughts actually examines AI through a Marxian framework. The paper outlines how AI integration deepens structural inequalities. It argues that by displacing highly educated symbol manipulators, the people who write reports, code, and analyze data, AI expands what Marx called the reserve army of labor. This surplus of displaced experts creates massive downward pressure on wages and strips workers of their bargaining power, shifting control even further toward those who own the technology.
And that leads us to the concept of proletarianization. In sociological theory, tools like ChatGPT are considered proletarianizing because users actively delegate their ability to think. You literally lose your cognitive agency. But researchers also point to a growing countermovement, deproletarianization. This is this intense thirst to reclaim the digital commons, to invest heavily in open-source collaboration, and to reappropriate knowledge, so that workers aren't just reduced to passive appendages of an algorithmic machine.
Section 4. The End of Artisans. Categorizing the workforce.
To really grasp who is actually at risk here, we need to look at how Harvard Business School categorizes the modern workforce. They divide workers into two main camps. First, you have template workers. These are people whose tasks are highly legible to software, like call center agents or junior coders. Their data is incredibly interchangeable, making their displacement risk sky high. On the other side, you have artisan workers, who possess rare expertise and illegible cognitive processes that are super hard to capture, giving them much higher bargaining power. But here's the catch. Even elite artisans, like surgeons, litigators, and top consultants, are facing immense pressure from firms right now to digitize their unique skills.
Looking at this historically, the evolution is just striking. Back in the 1980s, tech companies tried to build what they called expert systems, but they failed, largely because human experts actively sabotaged the engineers. They just refused to explain their tacit reasoning, so they wouldn't be replaced. Fast forward to 2023, and generative AI bypassed all of that by simply training on the mass digital residue we leave behind anyway. By 2026, ambient capture makes that kind of resistance incredibly difficult. It's actually a bit ironic, right? In the 80s, experts bravely hid from the engineers, but today, we automatically leak our training data through our corporate chat apps every single minute of the day.
Section 5. Rise of Knowledge Guilds. Strategies for Deproletarianization.
So, the big question, how do we bridge this massive gap between the firm's desire for data and the workers' need for survival? Well, the Harvard Business School paper proposes the creation of knowledge guilds to act as legal intermediaries. Think of this sort of like Hollywood's SAG-AFTRA, but for white-collar expertise. These guilds would negotiate data control, enforce privacy, and set value-sharing floors. Instead of treating your emails and your code as free training data, a knowledge guild treats your expertise as a copyrighted derivative work. This ensures you actually get compensated for the knowledge data you generate, and importantly, it protects the talent pipeline so junior workers actually have a way to learn and become experts in the future.
The absolute crucial takeaway drawn from the preprints paper is this. The battleground for the future of work isn't the physical office. It honestly doesn't matter if you are remote, hybrid, or sitting in a cubicle. The true battleground is the memory layer of the firm. Corporate governance has shifted from physical seating charts to data control rights, because whoever controls the artifact capital, the searchable, durable traces of your thinking, ultimately controls the value of the labor.
I want to leave you with this provocative thought to chew on. Are you actively contributing to your own proletarianization through your daily digital tasks? Think about it. Every single time you meticulously document a complex process to make your day easier, are you simply training the algorithmic manager that will eventually replace your creativity agency? It is a fascinating and urgent question. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to keep asking the hard questions about the tools you use every single day.